This is totally illegible to all of you looking at this, except you also have copies of this in your packet. I'd like to actually start. I think that the work that Andy and Joe talked about leads so nicely in to the 2020 Vision project that we are working on. And I'm excited, as I said, I think at the last board meeting, for this tri-district initiative that we have going. Attached in your files, but also that will be posted on the District 2020 Vision website tomorrow morning, is a list of the framework that was designed by the 3 districts. And this is our first iteration. This is what we're calling our working document that we want to move forward with. You will see that there are 3 major areas that are listed in here: personal and civil responsibility, learning and thinking skills, and communication literacies. And within each of these, then there are sub-areas under those that would fit really nicely into all of the areas that Andy just talked about and Joe talked about in regards to higher order thinking, creative thinking, looking at collaboration, curiosity, systems thinking, and all of those types of aspects that fit and develop from a global awareness based on what would be happening from an immersion program, but also the other work that we're doing at the elementary schools as the students are matriculating through from kindergarten through 12th grade. This was a very exciting project to work on, to see all of the districts come together, to see people take out the initial draft, take it back to their committees, to their groups, talk about it quite in depth, begin wordsmithing, begin saying, well, are these two things the same? Do we need to look at innovation and creativity as being the same type of idea? And we have condensed this into a much more pithy document, something that we think is you don't have to use a dictionary to look up the definitions, the words in the definitions, so that we can talk about and share and start having a common language about what 2020 Vision is and what the 21st century skills are that we're preparing our students. So we wanted to open this up as an opportunity for you to, number one, to see. It will be going on the website. Respond with any questions. This really is the lens through which we view what we do. Developing skills in an intentional and purposeful way. And that's what this is about. It's not about throwing out everything. We're doing great things in both District 67, 65, and 115. There are things that we need to be more intentional about and more purposeful about in order to make sure that our students are best prepared for the future. And that's what we're using this document as that lens that we can look through our curricular areas, look through our math, look through our social studies, look through our science, and how are we incorporating these things. We've already started that as we've begun looking at our K-4 social studies curriculum to begin looking at project problem-based types of opportunities for students. We've looked at it as we're looking at science, some of the things that we're doing in science, and you obviously heard about some of the things that we're looking with our immersion program in world language. So that is just a little bit of a kickoff on what the 2020 Vision document is, and I'll entertain any questions at this point, and if not, we're going to go on into the Netbook pilot discussion, which is an actualization of many of these things.
Did you get take your Friday spelling test? Nice. What are you guys working on?
Brain tumors and math stuff. Netbooks. Starting after that, we're going to make a project.
Okay.
So we know Becky watched everything.
Good. And then where are you going to put those answers at? You even have nice writing for that. So did you have to use any paper? Did you have to use any pencils?
I am right now just
Why did you need to know what deception meant?
Because it's in a photo for comment.
The comment you had to make. So what's your question for tonight? Was deception acceptable, and you weren't sure what the word deception meant, so you had to go in and look it up in dictionary.com?
Yes. I think that when I partner up with groups, it really helps me work because if I get a question wrong, they can help me understand it, or I help people learn too. So I like working with partners because I think it's easier to learn when you're having fun with a friend instead of just working by yourself. It makes some work, so it's like half. But instead of this.
So you've got your table set up here. Then you've got a little, what are you guys doing, like a little role play? That's your script. So how are you guys recording yourself? What are you guys using? Monster. Oh, I love it. That's awesome. Very creative. Did you guys come up with that idea on your own then? So would you say that with this project, leaving it open-ended helped you to use your creativity to really go farther with what you wanted to do with the project?
I like having netbooks because they're another way to do homework.
Another way to do homework.
I like how you can get online textbooks on them and they're kind of easier to carry than having just real textbooks.
We like in math using the netbooks. Why though?
Because it helps you like learn on the links.
The links. Okay, so
I think it linked into a work done efficient.
Towards Math Mayhem.
Math Mayhem, love it. What is Math Mayhem for someone who wouldn't know what that is?
It's a math gaming site.
It's like a game site. What are you doing on that gaming site?
You challenge your friends and other people in like math like questions.
I like that it doesn't waste any paper. I like self-learning, like how we go off and it's not like a teacher talking to us and people here.
Okay, so you like the independent, self-directed learning. You found that to be really beneficial. Annoying. So did that happen to you today as you were taking a test?
Yeah.
You clicked on the wrong answer and
But
then...
I went through it and I corrected it.
Oh, good. So you had to go back and edit work then. So it teaches you to go back and really double check your answers.
I think it's more helpful that we're using the netbooks because I think it's easier to learn that way. I like for you to teach us because it's easier for us because if we don't understand something, we can just raise our hand.
Okay.
But it's also fun with computers because then you have to take a few minutes to figure it out, and when you figure it out, you're kind of proud of yourself instead of just raising your hand and say,
So that was an example of some of the work that is happening in some of our netbook classrooms. And the exciting part about that, if you saw a lot of this, the bouncing up and down and stuff, and I was watching it the first time last night, I'm going, oh, I'm getting seasick watching this. But that's a classroom where they're using the balls, and the Spirit of 67 Foundation had funded getting big exercise balls for different classrooms, and in this particular classroom, they're using those, and that's what you see is a lot of that energy, happening all throughout the day with the students, and they're not dropping their netbooks in there because of the bouncing balls, maybe for other reasons, but certainly not for that.
That's actually our next innovation for board meetings.
Because that should be really entertaining to watch, all of you bouncing on that. Hopefully you can all stay on them. I've asked for some of the teachers who are here, Ken Smith, Jennifer Kolar, and Nancy Hallstrom. I'm going to have them stand up now. Just each of them to say just a couple of words about what this has done to their teaching in the classroom, what they've seen from students that they've been working on over the course of this year.
Okay, well, I've taught for 18 years, and I think right about the 16th year I became very comfortable with what I was doing. And then Kyle asked me to do this last year, so, which was probably the best thing that's ever happened. I entered the year very nervous about how it was going, a little type A. I tried to create all summer what was going to happen, and I realized you can't do that. So what I wanted to just express was probably two things that might be able to sum up in my little time here. One, what Elizabeth in the video there said about we don't waste a lot of paper. That's true. I think we've probably saved about a dozen acres of forest just on our own right here. Our Wednesday folders, which used to be Friday folders, but they're the take-home folders, there's nothing in them. There are a few things that come home from the office, but really most of the stuff is what we've created and the kids have created, and it's stored digitally. It's maybe in their Dropbox, their assignment notebooks. Today we were just filling them out, and they're, they have their netbooks out, so that they're storing them in their netbook or in their Dropbox. They're looking at Edline more often. It's just it's amazing how little paper we're actually using. And the other thing I would say is that as far as like a typical day, there are no typical days. And so I will try to explain a typical day, which there are none. The first thing, for instance, in math today, the kids were hurrying through a lot of the things that I had with the traditional paper and pencil, just so they could get to the integer race, which was going to reinforce what I've been trying to teach about adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. They were flying to get to that point, so classroom management was affected as well. Not only did we get done quicker, they were more efficient. And then when they got to that point, there was a little buzz in the room, so there's a little bit more noise, but at the same time, it's noise that is useful. I mean, they're talking amongst themselves and they're excited. And then we moved into LA, and in LA today, we wanted to talk about spelling. Well, there's no spelling book. We went to Spelling City. They did their spelling. There's a vocabulary component to it. And as we moved into writing today, we decided, well, we're working on persuasive essays. Well, they wrote their persuasive essay on Open Office, and they stored it in a digital locker for me to go and grade, which I graded 30 on Saturday, and then I could write little notes back to them, and then they could open it up and change them. No paper, once again. And then in LA, or in social studies, a good example would be they walk in, they open up their netbook, they begin with the questions that I've already uploaded. They respond to those, and we set aside last week a lesson on ancient Greece just so we could talk about what was going on in Egypt at the time. We studied ancient Egypt. Well, modern day Egypt had some pretty incredible things happening. And only minutes after Mubarak had stepped down, we were able to go ahead and go right on CNN and look at some videos, go right to our world newspaper sites, and the kids were pulling up newspapers out of Egypt. So it was pretty powerful, the things we could do, which in the past just wouldn't have been possible.
I'm Jennifer Kolar. I just wanted to say I was lucky that 4 years ago I was able to participate at the district's master's program for instructional technology through Northern Illinois University, and I felt so lucky at the end of last year when I found out I would get to use that to teach this pilot, because I've always loved school, and this year I really feel like my students love it as much as I do. One of my favorite comments is by a young man who was in the movie named Chris, who said, I guess it was somewhere in December, kind of after all the craziness was over, because like Ken said, no days are ever alike. Even though we have a routine, there's so much to do, there's so much excitement because the students are so excited about their education this year. But the young man said to me, Mrs. Kolar, have you ever noticed how these days just fly by? And that's how I feel my students feel every day, because they're actively involved in what they're doing. Like one of the little girls said in the movie, in math, we don't want to sit and listen to the teacher talk all period. So I've happily accepted my role this year as a planner and a facilitator, and that truly is what a classroom looks like. That wasn't scripted. That's what the classroom would look like any day you might walk in.
Nancy Hallstrom, and I'm also part of the team that get to pilot the Netbooks, and I have also had a wonderful, fascinating experience with the students. I think the item that really I'd like to add to them is the difference between project and process. We're doing both of them in 5th grade, and for the first time, I really see a huge teamwork environment enhanced by the Netbooks today in science. They had a project-based project that they were working on, and for them, you can just step back and you can see them asking each other questions. And some of the students who would never speak in if I was just standing up in class giving a teaching episode, they would never say anything, but in this particular environment, they were teaching the rest of their team on how to use the various components that they needed to complete the project, and it was really awesome to see.
We could literally go on for another 2 hours with comments about things that are happening in the classroom, the challenges that we've had, the challenges that we've overcome, the challenges yet to overcome with things. Some of those are listed in the document that we put in front of you. I think it's a 3-page document. That too will be posted on the 2020 Vision website. We're excited about this opportunity. What's exciting is that the 4 teachers, Amy Lamberti was unable to be here tonight, and Laura Montgomery, who put the video together, but also has been a driving force behind this with the teachers, was unable to be here tonight, but have been just instrumental to the success of this. And what has been exciting is to see the enthusiasm build among their colleagues as well. I had some teachers who were just really not happy that they weren't the ones chosen for this. I mean, we hand-selected 4 teachers who I knew would be flexible in this, would listen to me say no and yes and do this type of thing. And we have wonderful teachers in the district. And they're now they're wanting to do this. They're seeing this. We've already started training. We were sort of a serendipity, I suppose. We had another webinar scheduled 2 weeks ago, which kind of went haywire. Well, it allowed the 5th grade teachers, and this group pulled together and said, hey, we'll get together and we're going to work with the 5th grade teachers on what we're doing with Netbooks. And within 25 minutes, 30 minutes, this group got together and reformatted, created a professional development opportunity for the afternoon that was just could not have been planned any better. We're actually going to replicate that again with 5th grade teachers and also with our 6th grade teachers as we move forward. So what I'm excited about is seeing all of these things coming together. Andy was talking about sort of the momentum for the immersion has happened, in sort of a quick process. This has been about a 6-year process in getting to this point. And the immersion kind of fits right into that. It fits right in as we look at global awareness, as we look at connecting children to the world beyond and learning another language, and as they're using the technologies and more increasing ways to become more collaborative as they grow and develop through our system. We've been visiting a couple of schools. We have visited a couple years ago Avoca. This past week we went to Northbrook District 27 and looked at a netbook program that they have just instituted this year. We've actually been working with them. They were part of our cohort that we did with the master's program through NIU. They joined us here for that. I also went with them when they went up to Canada, to Eastern Township Board about 5 years ago to look at their programs up in east of Montreal. We have a teacher who just came back from High Tech High School in San Diego. She was out there on another trip. And I said, she's like, it's already paid for. Can I go, spend another day and go down to this high-tech high school? Went down there, Susie O, our ILI at Everett School. She emailed me this morning. She says, oh my gosh, it was just fantastic to see what kids are doing in a collaborative environment. And it's not all about the computers. It's just about a whole new learning environment. We have some teachers who are right now down at Catalina Foothills Schools in Tucson area. We're fortunate that we have one of our former teachers who is actually working in that district, and we have one of our administrators whose cousins go to school in that district. So we found out we have quite a tie to Catalina Foothills District. And you've heard me mention that before. It's a district that worked with Materi Group, which is one of the Partnership for 21st Century Skills businesses that has worked with them. They're also looking at an international baccalaureate school, which is exciting because that's another thing that we can begin looking at as a vehicle for delivering 21st century or 2020 vision skills. We have another teacher who will be going in April to a school out in Iowa, and we think, Iowa? They built a ball field there, but they also built some pretty cool schools that are really connecting with their 21st century skills within the curriculum, and it's a media specialist who works there who has a blog that Patty Fleeser has been reading quite a bit about, and so we want to go take a look at that school as well. So it's exciting to see the things that we've been looking at and studying and to see where we're at and continuing to move forward with this project.
Questions?
Kyle, it sounds very positive. Have there been any stumbling blocks, even like technological, like I dropped my laptop, the equivalent of the dog ate my homework, or anything like that? Any big challenges as we look on moving forward, that and how you've...
I think there's a couple of challenges, and they're exciting challenges because they're ones that you expect. You know, we live with these digital natives, and that, oh my gosh, they're going to come in and be able to just sit down and use a computer. And Ken probably summed it up best, but they all felt it, was that, wow, they can do it, but they don't know how to use it as a tool. They can go on and they can, you know, do a Facebook, or they can do an email, or they can do this, but they don't know how to use it as a tool all the time. And that was the struggle at the beginning of the year of figuring out, okay, how much time do we need to spend to do some of these things, front end load some of those. So that was a challenge initially. It's not anymore. The kids are getting that. They're teaching the teachers things, and the teachers are teaching them things. It's this great back and forth relationship. We've had some that have dropped. They're kids, you know. Of course, that's a different attitude than I sometimes take when I'm emailed that week. But the reality is that they do drop. Something happens to them. So, and we've taken care of that. The good thing has been is there's not been a maliciousness with them. They've been treating them with respect. We have cases that they carry around. We talked to Northbrook last week, and we did find out that, yes, they've dropped theirs at times. And so those are just things that you have. We've had to adjust some things infrastructure-wise and putting more access points for wireless. Those are things that we found along the way. The good thing is that we're going to be ahead of the game as we start implementing, you know, in 5th and 6th grade, which is our goal for next year, because we've learned a lot by doing a pretty intense pilot this year.
Thank you.
So can you share a little bit? So the goal, right now there's 4 classrooms in the 5th grade.
Right now there are 4 classrooms in the 5th grade, and you heard from 3 of our teachers, and Amy Lamberti is the 4th. What we're looking at doing, the goal would be to have all 5th grade and all 6th graders next year be issued a netbook for their use in a one-to-one situation. We've been working on the training with that from the professional development standpoint, basically starting a couple weeks ago, though we've had some earlier things with that, and then moving forward with that. Part of it is looking at the fact of, you know, we've got these 4 5th grade classrooms. They need to maintain those technologies as they move into 6th grade and 7th grade and 8th grade, so we need to do that. But we also have 6th grade teachers who are now ready to take that next step as well.
Okay, and then along with that, then the infrastructure would also need to be upgraded.
There are some tweaks to the infrastructure. The good thing is that when we did the upgrades this year for the new phone systems and the other things that were in place, the fiber, the new routers, all of those big other techno terms, a lot of that was taken care of this year. So really the big thing that we would need to look at this year, and we've already talked with Jen Hermes and Cornelius DeBose, is really putting access points in the rooms at a more consistent rate. Again, we've looked at some different schools that are doing this. Some have them in every room, some have them placed more strategically. That's the biggest infrastructure change that needs to be made, because fortunately a lot of that was taken care of with this last year's changes.
Is the idea that the netbooks would be owned by the students, paid for by the students and kept, or would they be owned by the school?
I think that's an area that we're looking at. What is the best way to be able to finance something like this? Is it best to do that in some ways that we can incorporate that within what we're doing within the school? Is it best to look at ways of offsetting that with other types of fees either paid by parents? At the same time that we're looking at cutting down some other opportunities for parent fees. We're looking at supply list and cutting some things down there.
Yeah, so I think the goal, Rick, is for this to be the student's tool, personal tool. And Kyle's talking about we're going to be a little creative in how to cobble together the resources for parents to do this, including not doing some other fee-based things. There's the Spirit that we have a grant for, so it's going to be a potpourri of things that we can cobble together to put this into the hands of each student at a very reasonable price. Of course, for a family that's really struggling financially, and we do have families like that, we have a process and a method for assisting those families also.